Yo, what's up, jazz guitar friends? Larry Tamanini here with LT Jazz Guitar. Hey, I've been getting a lot of requests for Bluesette, and Bluesette's such a great song, and it's a blues. It's so much easier to think of this song as a blues, right? It's 24 bars. Sometimes when you trade on this song, things can get weird, right? Trading in 6 or 3 always is a little weird. And, thinking of this song as a blues makes it so much easier to solo over. And I know a lot of guitar players and musicians would think that, like, there's no way a blues would start on a major 7 chord, right? But there's plenty of blueses that start on a major 7 chord, right? We got Blues for Alice, Sippin' at Bells, this one. A couple of those Bird songs have that. I'm thinking of a Freight Train, starts on a major 7 chord. So it's not unheard of. But let's just kind of like a really quick explanation of this song would be, I would think of this as a 1 with confirmation changes to the 4, and then walk down to the flat 3, and then finally the flat 2, right? Lots of process in a very short amount of time. So let's take a deeper look at that, right? All right. So the first thing you really want to do, and it's sort of an abstraction, and usually when you start thinking in abstract terms in guitar, or music for that matter, you become a lot further away from the source. But this is maybe a jazz abstraction, a jazztraction that will help you out. Thinking of this song as where the major tonalities it visits. You got 1, 4, flat 3, flat 2, Neapolitan. I always liked seeing the Neapolitan because I love pizza and I love ice cream. And I really think that any song that has this in it subconsciously is speaking to me. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. So I got that flat 2 to my 1. All right, now check it out. The whole way this song is laid out is just like a blues. It's a long blues with a long turnaround. Instead of going 5, 4, 1, we end up going 4, flat 3, flat 2. It's all whole steps, right? The way this whole song moves is whole steps. I keep saying the word whole. Anyways, I start on the 1. I have a 2, 5 down to my 6. Now, normally, that in itself would be like the move. But again, I have a bunch of different moves here. It's almost like in checkers, where I got all the way across the board, right? But I'm trying to get to that E flat. But I have to negotiate a lot of these changes. And you sort of have to look at them as a whole movement, right? You don't want to just keep resetting here. You want to think of these, how they're moving to the 4. Now, there's nothing alien here. There's plenty of times where you end a song and you start on a flat 5 and end on a 1. This time it feels weird because you're sort of going to a 4 in the middle of a song. But anyway, once I'm on this 4, I have this kind of movement, right? Where it goes 2, 5, 1, and then that major chord becomes the 2 of my next major, sequence going down in whole steps. Again, a lot of movement in a short time. This is a great song. Toots Thielemans was a great musician, a wonderful harmonica player, which is such a cool sound, and a great guitar player. So this song, you have to look at it as where it's going. If you start chopping it up into little pieces, you're going to have a really hard time. Because then you get into like typewriter jazz mode, where you start to think of this standing on its own, and then maybe you're just sort of... Nothing wrong with doing that once or twice or just being able to get the idea. But the whole point is just being able to play, like, maybe since that line is going down, I might want to try to think of something that's ascending. Right? So many ideas there that you can come up with, counter ideas. But anyway, the way the song moves when you're playing this is you hear like first you hear the flat 5 to the 2, then it's a regular 5 to the 2, and then another regular 5, to the 3rd, right? And then it finally resolves. Again, this is a whole sequence. And again, there's a couple blues that do this. In 3, it's a little trickier because, sure, you get one less beat to make it happen. Easier in some ways to, instead of thinking of this as like making it 12 bars, you know. Right? Not that like waltz 3, that like, you know, what are we in Vienna? Like not that continuous like boom boom boom. Give it a little bit of a bounce. But once you're out of 4/4, you do have to play a little bit differently, even though we talk about playing in triplets. Playing in 3 versus playing in 4, a whole other topic. So again, once I get this moving, I'm going to the 4. But usually most blues songs, when they go to the 4, they're going to resolve back to the 1 or go to a 5. You know, I don't do that. I know when I'm playing the 4 here, it's going to go 4 major to 4 minor. Again, a lot of times when something like this happens, it's like maybe a chromatic thing, you know, right? Doesn't happen here. You know, can I throw it in? Like, sure. Would I throw it in? Like, I don't know. Probably not. So, again, okay, that's okay, right? And then the way it moves, right? I know I'm going from my 4 down to my flat 3rd, down to my flat 2. Are there any other blues that move like that? I can think of a couple turnarounds. There's a Hank Mobley tune called The Turnaround that goes down, you know, from the 5th, 4th, flat 3rd, flat 2nd. I can think of, you know, I'd like to do a bunch of videos on songs that, are they a blues or are they not a blues? Like Solar. You know, Solar kind of goes from the 4 down to the flat 2. Down to the flat 3, down to the flat 2, right? But a lot of people don't think of Solar as a blues because that turnaround's so weird, right? But here, it kind of works because instead of resolving, you know, to a non-5, it resolves to the B, which is a, you know, a tritone, right? And we all end up sort of going, leaning on that F, going back into the B flat. Anyway, so again, this song, such a great tune in 3, and those are just the changes. Why is that important? Well, you know, a lot of people like to play this in G, and it's hard to transpose down a minor 3rd. But again, if I was going to take this song and move it down a minor 3rd, well, the first thing I want to do is just sort of lay out a little bit of a jazz abstraction here. And I'm going to think of where the major chords are. It's going to go to my 1, it's going to go to my 4, it's going to go to my flat 3, and ultimately my flat 2. So these are the major tonalities it's going to visit, and the blues sort of happens in between it, right? So what's the blues in between? Well, I know that if I'm starting in G, I know I have a 3, 2 5s going down, and whole steps that get me to my 4, right? There's that 4. I know that once I get to that 4, it's going to be a 2 5, whole step down to my my flat 3rd. I know it's also going to go down to my flat 2, and then a big thing here is like that cool turnaround that happens. I know the turnaround happens on the 3. You can do something chromatic, you know. So again, let's just say we take this to a key of C now, right? So we're playing this in 3 keys. this is a song that maybe we feel pretty good about as far as just the chords, right? That's cool. So I know in the key of C, this is probably going to end up sounding like a major version of Solar in 3 in the key of C. But if I was going to play this in the key of C, I'd think about my 1, you know, my 4, flat 3, flat 2, and then, so I know that from C, I have that, you know, confirmation kind of going down 3 times to take me all the way to my 4, and I have an F. Right, there's that flat 3. There's my flat 2, right? And it starts on the 5th. Now we're back in B flat, right? The melody is pretty cool. Melody is really maybe the more challenging part to get on this guitar, especially because of the range once it goes to the 4, right? But it starts on a 5th. Almost goes up a major scale. Really important that I know I'm going to go almost up a major scale, but I know it's going to go to my flat 5th of this next 2, right? In this case, I'm playing this in the key of B flat now. Right, when you play a song in a couple different keys, you kind of have to, you know, you get the jazz GPS going. Right? I know it's going to go from my flat 5 to my 3rd, and then it's just going to be 5 to my 3rd. Right? 5 down to my 3rd. This is a tricky part, right? Because if I play it here on the guitar, I know I'm going to have to go above my 12th fret. Right? Because I starts major, ends up minor. There's that. Right? So much easier to start transposing when you start thinking of how these chord tones apply to like where they are, you know, melodically where they are and where they fit in the scale, right? So rather than just sort of like plan out that first phrase, you could really think that I know I start on my 5th and I go right up the scale until I get to here, right? I'm going to almost play an F major scale until I know I have to play that flat 5 of the corresponding 2 of the cycle that I'm playing. But that's what I'm aiming for. When we're trying to transpose and learn songs, the worst thing you want to be doing is thinking note to note to note. It's really like the Morse code of thinking and playing jazz. Got to think in full, you know, you don't want to be like, you know, F going to G, you know, A, you know, B flat. Don't want to be doing that. Think of a full phrase, and then you can see how it moves, right? Because it's always going to be, again, 5th to my 3rd, 5th to my 3rd, 5th, and then you have this whole, ends up on a 3rd though, right? You start identifying where it is, and then it's easier to move to other, you know, right? There it is in another key. All right, jazz guitar friends, Bluesette. It is most certainly a blues, and it certainly makes more sense when you're just treating this as a blues that goes to flat 3 and flat 2 versus however you've been learning it before, especially if you're trying to learn it in another key. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to hit that like, share, subscribe button. Surely appreciate it over here at Jazz Guitar. Me and Hershey, thank you very much. All right, keep swinging. Bebop.